All right, well, good morning, everybody. It's 11 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. I'd ask, I'm getting a little feedback, so make sure you're on mute unless you are speaking. So we are here this morning for a report by Advanced Energy Utilities Commission. I am Charlotte Mitchell. I'm the chair of the commission. I'd like to do a roll call of the commissioners with us this morning, just because we are remotely and it can be difficult to see everyone on a screen at one time. So this morning we have Commissioner Gray. Do you announce? Good morning. Good morning, Commissioner Gray. Commissioner Clodfelter?
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Duffley?
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Duffley. Commissioner Hughes, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, Commissioner Hughes and Commissioner McKissick.
Present.
All right. With that, I will turn it over to Joanne Sanford and Bob Goodson. Ms. Sanford, Mr. Goodson, it would be helpful if you all would run through introductions on your end. Again, just because since we are not all in the room together, it can be difficult to tell who is speaking when.
Thank you, Chair Mitchell. We will do that. We thank you. We thank our commission colleagues, the members of your staff, including Sam Watson, who follows and participates with the work of Advanced Energy throughout the year and who is very helpful to us. We also thank and appreciate the support and the input from Chris Ayers and his colleagues at the public staff. We appreciate your time and interest and attention, and you're giving us a lot of that this morning, as you do on an ongoing basis. I am going to thank and introduce our board, and which requires that I move to another screen, so I'll request your patience for just a minute. After introduction of the board members, I will turn it over to Bob Goodson, who can speak to who is participating from Advanced Energy. But again, the operative word this morning is thank you. Thank you for your willingness to hear us and to be interested in what we're doing and to participate, and to also do it in this odd virtual context that we have more and more gotten used to, but which we look to see in our taillights. I think it will be nice to be able to get together for real again. Our board members include Kendall Bowman of Duke Energy, Ms. Dion Delegati, who's with the Environmental Defense Fund, Chris Edge of Duke Energy, Hayes Finley, who's with Fox Rothschild, Adam Foodman with O2 Energies, Dr. Robert Koger, Catherine Collins with Southeastern Wind Coalition, Dale Lambert of Randolph EMC, Peter Ledford, General Counsel of NC Sustainable Energy, Bob Powell of A&T State University, Gayleen Watson with Dominion Energy, Carl Wilkins of Quanta Technology, and also participating with us in these calls, and a very essential part of our team is John Fusco of Wyrick Robbins, who is our legal counsel. So we appreciate his work as well. So with that, I will turn it to Bob Goodson, who will introduce members of his staff and will take us to our program.
Thank you, Joanne. And again, I'd like to also thank the Commission for the opportunity, even though we're virtual, certainly for the opportunity for us to present our annual report. It's an understatement that this has been an unusual year. All of us are looking to get this behind us as quickly as we can, but in the unusual year, we've had to adapt, and our staff has had to adapt to the crisis and still meet and serve the needs of our utility members and our clients. And that adaptation has really led us to looking at our business model in a lot of areas and trying to figure out how we could be more efficient in providing our service. We're very excited about some of the innovative work that we've done. Back in April, we really did not know what to expect in 2020, and we kind of put our heads down and tried our best to figure out how to conduct our business and continue our mission while we were in the pandemic shutdown. There's some examples of our business model that you'll hear about today. but a few of them I want to highlight. One was we were able to change our training and education platform from a typical in-person series of a educational series to a webinar platform, and it really provided a more efficient and more participation. And I think you'll be seeing in the future us adapting more to that kind of platform as opposed to in person. In addition to that, we were really challenged in the commercial and industrial audit area and our residential audits with how to do that without having in-person inspections. And we adopted a remote inspection program that, again, I think will carry on in the future as we've kind of adapted. And we've been asked by a number of clients to assist in looking at COVID programs that could make their operations safe. And that's a new area for us. And I've been really pleased with our staff to jump in and learn as much as possible to help, particularly a number of commercial and industrial customers. So it's been a challenging year. It's been turns out to be a good bottom line year for us. And we're excited to provide that information to you today. I'd like to introduce our three speakers that will basically be the part of our agenda. First up, we'll have Brian Coble, who's our Senior VP over Operations, and Brian will give an advanced energy report of our activities in 2020. Following Brian, Vicki McCann, who is our NCGREENPOWER Program Manager, will be providing an update report on NCGREENPOWER. As you all know, that's the subsidiary that Advanced Energy runs on behalf of the GreenPower Board. And then finally, Jacob Bolin, who is a project manager on our staff and has immersed himself in the last few years in electric vehicles. We thought this year we would highlight an activity that Jacob has been involved in around electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and also a good example of what do you do during a pandemic. And so Jacob did a fantastic 1,250-mile road trip to look at infrastructure. And we hear a lot about there's a lot of infrastructure out there. I think you'll find Jacob's findings very interesting. So right now I'd like to turn it over to Brian Coble.
Thank you, Bob. I thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to tell you about Advanced Energy's 2020 accomplishments. It's good to see everyone. I'm very happy to be here and have this opportunity. Last week, you received an email with our annual report, and the annual report goes into greater detail. You can dig into that as you wish, and today I'll generally follow the document's structure. Advanced Energy is a nonprofit energy consulting firm that applies innovative and practical approaches to energy issues. Our technical expertise is currently in the residential, commercial and industrial, renewables, motors and drives, and electric vehicles markets. It's important that we tie these markets together with our services, which include investigative research, testing, training and education, consulting, and programs. You'll see today that the topics we cover will highlight work we're doing in each of these service areas and market segments. Our annual report begins by celebrating our 40th anniversary, including a timeline of our accomplishments since our inception. Since the beginning, we've worked to support the commercialization of alternative energy technologies and techniques. And for example, in the 1980s, we promoted cogeneration plants to industry. We trained hundreds of HVAC contractors on how to properly install heat pumps. And we added batteries and an electric motor to a cargo van to study the potential for commercial fleets. Today, many of the problems we face as an industry are similar to the ones we faced in the early 80s, but the tools and the technologies that are available as solutions are far more complex and evolving quickly. The first market I'd like to address today briefly is electric transportation, where we provide ongoing training and education on the benefits of electric vehicles. One of our recent projects is the Regional Cooperative Education Series on electric vehicles, where we are delivering 6 training sessions and a virtual roundtable to electric cooperatives that will allow their staff to have the most up-to-date information when speaking with their members. Our regional series will reach electric cooperative staff spanning 5 states, including North Carolina. And again, Jacob Boland's presentation this morning will discuss our electric transportation work in greater detail and the work he and the team have been doing. In addition to electric transportation, Advanced Energy is focused on beneficial electrification of industrial processes since the 1980s. We've worked with manufacturers to make them aware of the latest and most reliable equipment and how it may be integrated into their existing systems. For example, manufacturers that replace fossil fuel heating processes with electric heat processing often increase manufacturing productivity and quality while reducing overall energy use and consumption and emissions. This year, we created education materials on electric technologies and a savings calculator to help quantify investment payback. In one case, our engineers researched hybrid electric transport refrigeration units. And this equipment cuts emissions and costs while also providing temperature control for produce and other foods. The investigative research we perform on new technologies such as this one helps to keep North Carolina businesses informed of new equipment that can make them more competitive moving forward. And as you know, there's overwhelming potential for energy savings and emissions reductions in commercial and industrial facilities. Keeping costs low this year has been as important as ever for businesses, and many were looking for ways to save energy while facilities were not in full use. This year, we continued our on-site support of commercial and industrial businesses by providing energy efficiency audits, both virtually and in person. We also had questions related to COVID-19 safety arise from our customers. In one case, we helped the Asheville Art Museum create a plan for COVID-19 upgrades, which will allow them to open their business more safely while also considering energy use. The information we developed on COVID-19 safety in commercial buildings was used to create an online training for Electricity's public power members to aid their commercial and industrial customers as well. In addition to our energy efficiency audits, we've continued to help industrial customers incorporate energy management into their businesses using an internationally recognized standard. The International Organization of Standards, or ISO, created the 50001 standard as a holistic approach for the energy management of facilities. Advanced Energy's role in ISO 50001 is to offer consulting as the customer navigates the third-party certification process. For example, one key service we provide is mapping the customer's energy use by analyzing where the energy goes once it enters their facility. This process determines the highest energy users and allows data to drive the development of their energy management plan. This year, we partnered with Duke Energy and Daimler Trucks North America to provide the consulting in 10 of Daimler's facilities, 4 of which are in North Carolina. To help prepare companies for ISO 50001 certifications, the Department of Energy recently created the ISO 50001 READY program, which we support as a partner to DOE. The READY program is a self-paced, no-cost way for organizations to begin the process of becoming ISO 50001 certified, essentially a first step. This year, we offered READY program consulting sessions for 18 of North Carolina's commercial and industrial businesses. The sessions helped these organizations analyze their facilities' energy use and develop action plans for energy management. We have also been busy helping the federal government implement the READY program. This year, we led federal agency cohorts that included 16 NASA sites, 5 sites for the United States Department of Justice, and Fort Bragg. I'll now transition from commercial and industrial to cover electric motors specifically. According to the Department of Energy, electric motors consume more than 50% of all electric energy and more than 85% of industrial electrical energy. This is the reason Advanced Energy focuses heavily on increasing the energy efficiency of electric motors. In July, we became one of only 3 organizations recognized by the Department of Energy to have a DOE-approved national certification program. This recognition allows Advanced Energy to perform certification testing to verify motor efficiency, and we predict will be required in the future. This is an important milestone to ensure we're ready to provide DOE-required testing for motor manufacturers moving forward. DOE recognition as a certification body supports our work with companies that make motors, but we also provide testing for original equipment manufacturers to help them choose reliable and efficient motors to use in their products. This year, we worked on several interesting projects, including motor testing for package delivery conveyors, which saw growth due to the increase in online shopping. We also tested 2 90-year-old ventilation motors for a transportation tunnel in New York. The tunnel is being renovated, and there was no existing performance documentation on the ventilation motors due to their age. We tested the motors in our lab to determine the actual performance, and the data was used to purchase the best replacement. We also work with motor service centers or repair shops each year. Our motor service center consulting ensures that the shop has the processes in place to retain the motor's original efficiency after it's been repaired. And in another unique project, our experts continued work with Duke Energy on power quality. And in this case, we provided investigative research services to better understand how distributed technologies may interact with electric motors. And in regards to residential, we still have areas in North Carolina that have significant issues with winter morning peak energy use that's caused by strip heat of air source heat pumps. Our residential team uses a combination of computer simulations and field studies to assess the benefits of emerging technologies in reducing peak energy use of homes. We continue to investigate the customer experience and effectiveness of high-efficiency heat pumps that do not use strip heat, known as mini-split systems. In addition, we're examining how individual measures such as controls, electric storage, solar energy, smart water heating, and variable capacity heat pumps may be used together for electricity demand management. Ultimately, our goal is to use our research to develop a prescriptive, predictable peak residential program. And while we were working to the future on how new technologies can be deployed to solve peak demand, we've also continued our work with residential energy efficiency. I'm pleased to report that we're in our 19th year implementing our System Vision Affordable Housing Energy Efficiency Program through a partnership with the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. System Vision is based on a unique program design for single-family homes that will be owned by the resident. We provide field quality control through the construction of the home and provide a heating and cooling guarantee to each System Vision homeowner. The guarantee ensures that the home performs as predicted, and if not, we help determine why so that we can get it corrected. I'll now transition to our focus on utility scale battery storage and solar commissioning, where our goal is to ensure interconnections are safe, reliable, and ensure power quality. In 2020, we provided field visits to 2 North Carolina battery storage sites, including Duke Energy's Rock Hill storage system and Brunswick EMC's Heron's Nest microgrid. Each utility is using our site visits to provide insight into the proper interconnection of the system. But we're also interested in understanding what barriers to future installations of this new technology may exist. In addition to battery storage, we've continued our solar interconnection commissioning and have now completed over 160 solar facility inspections, with 56 of those expected to be completed this year. Our Smart Grid educational series provides information to government officials and other decision makers on the modernization of the grid. This year, our transition to web-based content paid off as we experienced significant growth with over 1,000 participants viewing our webinar series. This year's topics include megatrends in the energy industry and implications for North Carolina, medium and heavy-duty electrification in North Carolina, and electric rate modernization in North Carolina. Recordings of each webinar are available on the Advanced Energy YouTube channel. And finally, I'd like to highlight our online outreach, which we use to provide ongoing education and consulting to our customers and the public. We've had over 50,000 website visitors, over 220,000 social media impressions, and held over 65 virtual trainings and webinars this year. The top blog posts of 2020 represent the posts that received the most clicks from visitors. And as you can see, each of our technical areas are represented in our 5 top blog posts, showing balance in our outreach. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that the Commission may have.
Thanks, Brian. This is Charlotte Mitchell. I have 2 questions for you, and I'll ask them, and then I'll see if my colleagues have questions for you as well. But can you talk a little bit more about the winter peak program work y'all are doing? Are you coordinating with an electric utility and doing that work?
Yes, we are. Primarily, we have coordinated with each utility. Some of the more significant research that we're doing is with Duke Energy in Asheville, and now some work closer to Raleigh. But the heat pump, the mini split project that we've been working on specifically has been in Asheville.
Okay.
And all of that work's taking place in partnership with various utilities.
Okay, thank you. And then on the your comments on your inspection program for the solar interconnections, you indicated, or I think I heard you say y'all are going to complete 56 inspections in this year. Are those first-time inspections? Are those follow-up visits? Can you tell us a little bit more about what type of facility you're visiting? And then I'm just generally what you're seeing relative to what you've seen in previous years.
Yeah, so those will be new inspections. Some of those may entail revisits. We don't know, yet, but those are new sites that would be coming online. And I would really feel more comfortable having one of our solar experts answer your question about what we're seeing. But I think from my perspective, we've over time seen a general improvement from the developers as far as understanding what we're looking for, what the requirements are, and more easily meeting those.
Okay, and does the program encompass both rooftop solar as well as ground-mounted solar?
This program is solely utility scale solar.
Okay.
So most of the systems are around 5 megawatts and were heavily driven early on by the PURPA rule that we had.
Okay, so these aren't facilities that have just been placed in service. These are facilities that have been in service for some time then?
These are facilities that are going into service. So when we do our inspections, they're not yet in service. Okay. And our inspection is during the construction of that facility.
Okay, I was confused when you said 56, because I mean there haven't been 56 facilities placed in service in this year, have there been?
No, we expect probably 40 of those to hit in the last quarter.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so some of those numbers are projected.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that follow-up information. Any questions from commissioners? If you have a question, please just kind of sing out, because I can't see everyone on my screen at this point in time. All right, Brian, looks like you're off the hook.
Thank you, Chair Mitchell.
Thank you for that update.
And now I will transfer the presentation to Vicki McCann.
Thank you, Brian. I'll share my screen with everybody. Is the presentation visible to everyone? Okay, I will get started. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to present to you this morning. I will have 3 different topics to share with you today. The first being just an update on our renewable energy certificates, or our RECs, and carbon offset products. In addition, I would like to review some of the changes that our Solar Plus Schools program has had and how our 2020 schools are doing. And lastly, just some insight into what our goals for 2021 are. Since 2003, NCGREENPOWER has been known for kickstarting and supporting local renewable energy projects. And in 2008, we continued our support for local projects by adding the carbon offsets to our program. Our focus on North Carolina projects hasn't changed at all, but we have made revisions over the years. With Duke Energy's recent launch of their Renewable Advantage REC program, their residential donors now only support our Solar Plus Schools efforts. If their residential donors are interested in supporting blended renewables, they can do so through Duke Energy's program. There has been no change for Duke Energy's commercial and industrial customers. They can still support these products through NCGREENPOWER. In addition, our carbon offsets are still available for all Duke Energy customers. And for our other participating utilities, Dominion, co-ops, and munis, they continue to offer NCGREENPOWER RECs and carbon offsets to all of their customers. And in this year, since we've all been working from home, we've been continuing to coordinate with all of our schools and our installers to get the educational solar packages delivered. And normally, I would be here reporting to you, showing you pictures of all the different installations that we've celebrated during the year. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were only able to get out to a number of schools at the last part of last year to celebrate with them. Here is a picture from Rocky Mount Prep, and we also have a picture from West Wilkes High School. And with any luck, sometime next year, we'll be back out on the road and celebrating with more students and teachers. After getting commission approval last fall, we moved from our pilot program into production mode and expanded from 5 schools up to 10, 15, and 20 schools per year starting in 2020. We spent a good part of this year assessing our activities and processes and looking into ways to make our program more efficient. We focused on 2 primary areas to streamline, and that was around our solar expertise and also fundraising. Instead of awarding various installers to work on individual schools through the annual RFP process that we had, we decided to look for a single solar installer to construct all of the projects to reduce labor costs and try to bring down some of the construction costs as well. We weren't quite sure how many qualified installers would be willing to travel across all of North Carolina in order to work for our program, but we were really pleased to see the interest when we issued our revamped RFP process earlier this year. And we're really happy to say that just a couple of weeks ago, we selected a Raleigh-based installer, NC Solar Now, as our sole source installer and partner for program 2020 through 2022. We're also utilizing some of our existing staff from our solar team to replace our contract engineer, and he will be doing our site walks and final inspections, again, with the idea of reducing costs. As for fundraising, we have implemented a new platform that improves the fundraising experience for the schools and the donors and allows for greater social media interactions to help raise awareness for our program. It also automates a lot of the internal functions like reporting, tracking goals, sending donation acknowledgements, activities that we've typically had to do manually. And even the challenges that we faced as a company, that the schools have faced, the installers, everyone has experienced the same thing during the pandemic. And despite that, we've managed to continue on and reach our milestones with all of our projects. So it's very, very exciting for us to be able to say. And for those of you who would like to have a quick sneak peek of our upcoming revised website, here's just a glimpse of it for you. We hope to be able to launch this new website in January with new content as well. In March of this year, the NCGREENPOWER Review Committee evaluated all the schools that submitted applications to our Solar Plus Schools program, and the top 10 schools were recommended to and also approved by the NCGREENPOWER board, and will all be receiving educational solar packages. And while we give preference to schools in Tier 1 counties, those counties that are deemed the most economically distressed in our state, we do always provide for diversity in our selections. And as you can see, this year we had 3 schools that are in Tier 1 counties, 2 that are in Tier 2 counties, and 5 of them are located in Tier 3 counties. This is just a map showing the geographic diversity of the 2020 schools. This next map shows you where all of our schools will be once the 2020 schools are installed, including the 8 schools that we administered for Duke Energy Carolinas program back in 2018. Our overall impact will be that we'll have helped 42 schools, which is 10 more than what we did last year, in 33 unique counties. We were able to add 6 new counties to our list, and we will help nearly 32,000 students, which is an addition of 6,000 more than the previous year. So all great work. Here is the new fundraising platform on our website that I mentioned a few slides earlier. If you go to my.ncgreenpower.org, you'll see the main page for the 2020 program year, and below is where you'll see the fundraising campaigns for this year's 10 schools. Until recently, 8 of the 10 schools had successfully reached or even surpassed their fundraising goals, but there were 2 schools, Neat and South Stanley High School, that had been having difficulty raising money during the pandemic. We're happy to tell you today that just in the past few weeks, both of these schools have completed their fundraising efforts, and we're now able to begin the construction process for all 10 schools. The paperwork is underway. Documentation needs to be handled first, and then we expect construction, groundbreaking, and all that exciting stuff to happen probably in the January timeframe, running through the end of October of 2021. We'd like to recognize and thank both of our Advanced Energy and NCGREENPOWER boards of directors for their help in supporting our schools. We can't do it without your input and your support, so thank you. With the new year that's approaching, we've taken some time to identify a number of goals that span across all of our products: renewable energy, carbon offsets, and our Solar Plus Schools program. The first 4 bullets that you see revolve around one common theme, which is we really need to find more revenue streams. So how do we do this? The first step is to raise awareness about NCGREENPOWER. So we have some plans to do that. We are looking to share additional featured stories on our new website and through our newsletter. We'll be increasing our communication with businesses and education partners and our member utilities as well. We're contacting the Tar Heel Traveler to participate in future events and celebrations. But of course, until we can safely gather together again, we will be holding virtual events and attending online conferences. And because of our limited budget, we're going to continue to use our networking and low-cost social media to spread the word about NCGREENPOWER. By raising the awareness, we hope to bring new donors into our program, both the smaller individual donors and the larger corporate sponsors. It's really important for us to have the additional donations so that we can continue to impact more schools across our state. And the last goal that I have shown here is to make every North Carolina K-12 school aware of our grants so that we can increase the number of applicants to our program. Our overall goal is to help at least one school in every one of our 100 counties. And right now we're about a third of the way there, but we still have a lot of ground to cover. So not only is it critical for us to have more revenue to support our efforts, we need to ensure that every school knows about this opportunity to help their students. NCGREENPOWER has made a name for ourselves in the 17 years that we've been in business. We're known in the renewable energy market and the carbon offset market here in North Carolina, but we really want every school and every student to know that we're here to help enhance their education as well. And with that, I will conclude and ask if there are any questions.
Vicki, this is Charlotte. I do have a question for you. How do you all market the program or publicize the program to schools in the state?
Thanks, Chair Charlotte. We have a number of different databases that we've collected over the years. We work with the Department of Public Instruction as well. They help to send out notifications about our program when the application opens up in January. We have a database of various superintendents and principals, and we attend STEM-related conferences in order to meet face-to-face with a lot of the teachers and school facility folks that attend those meetings to let them know that that these opportunities are available to them. So those are the ways that we reach them with email. And excuse me, but there's a window washer right outside my office right now. So you hear clanging, that's what it is. We also do a lot of social media advertising. We are revamping our website to put all the information out there in a better way. But mostly it's through the emails that we have to the contacts in our databases and social media.
Okay, is it typically the case that a school that applies is applying in response to material they've received from you?
Yes, that's
okay.
Often the way that they apply to us. So we always ask on our application, how did you hear about us? And give them different options and a write-in blank. And much of it is through our efforts by using our database, but we have had some schools report that they heard about us through the Department of Public Instruction's contacts.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
All right, questions from any other commissioners?
Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning,
it's Kim Duffley.
Commissioner Duffley.
It's good to see you, and thank you for the presentation. I just had a quick question about, have you received any feedback from any of the initial schools or their students about the program?
Yes, we remain engaged with all of the schools, even the ones from 2015. Each year they're in the program, they're required to send us an annual report to let us know how the system has been operating, how they've been utilizing it in their education process, the number of kilowatt hours generated, things like that. So we do maintain contact with everybody on a regular basis. They've given us positive feedback about how they've been utilizing it within their schools. Not everybody responds to us as we would like them to be. Unfortunately, there's a lot of turnover at schools. In fact, there's one school in Durham where all the teachers we trained that year are gone, including the principal. So we try to get back in touch with the new folks at the school, invite them again to attend our curriculum training so that we haven't invested a lot in a school that isn't going to utilize the materials that we've given them. We want to constantly make them aware of the opportunities to get the education so that the teachers can be teaching the students using the materials we've given.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Vicki? All right, Vicki, looks like you're off the hook. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And at this point, I will pass this on to our next presenter, Jacob Olin.
Thanks, Vicki. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'll just mention that the window washer has actually moved down to the office that I'm in. So we'll see how that works, but go ahead and get started here. So I'm happy to be presenting this morning on behalf of one of the outreach efforts from Plug-in NC from 2020. You know, and certainly kind of thinking about, as has certainly been mentioned this morning, many of the COVID-19 kind of difficulties in terms of much of the work that we do. Our electric transportation work has been no different. Specifically with Plug-in NC, we've had the opportunity to certainly shift things a little bit. And I think this Plug-in NC road trip that I'll share this morning is a good example of how that went well. Really quickly, just kind of as an overview, this road trip was kicked off as a campaign for National Drive Electric Week, which happens around late September every year. It's, as it says, a national campaign to basically advocate for the benefits of driving electric. It's an opportunity for folks to host events, you know, to share and publicize you know, ride and drive events and, you know, various kind of outreach activities that they're working on. It's a really cool kind of coordinated campaign. This year we saw many kind of webinars and other virtual offerings, which we were certainly involved with kind of throughout the year in terms of our outreach for Plug-in NC. But during National Drive Electric Week, we decided to do something a little bit different and kind of try to share the benefits from the road. So I'll just kind of talk a little bit through that this morning. Really quickly, though, I just want to share an overview of Plug-in NC for any that might not be familiar. So Plug-in NC is a program that's managed by Advanced Energy with kind of the sole mission of progressing EV adoption throughout the state. That certainly started out kind of in the light duty space, but you know, has quickly shifted to also include the medium and heavy duty transportation sectors as well. Really what we do is we work from anything from kind of a on the ground outreach initiative by tabling events, by supporting conversation throughout the community. You know, certainly we've kind of built up a pretty present kind of webpage presence and certainly kind of moving into a more kind of strategic approach as well, really making sure that we're facilitating conversations to expand charging infrastructure, for example. Many of the stakeholders that we work with from a strategic perspective can really be represented through our steering committee. So I'll give you guys just a second to kind of see all of the different organizations and companies that take part in the Plug-in NC steering committee. Many of these were founding members of Plug-in NC, which goes back to 2011. You'll see that we have utility representation throughout all of North Carolina with North Carolina's electric cooperatives, Duke Energy, Dominion Energy, and Electricities as well. We've also got some charging installers and manufacturers, ChargePoint, Evgo, and then a handful of local and state government entities, Clean Alliance and energy groups and the like. So it's a really great opportunity to kind of bring folks together and again, kind of strategize about what our opportunities are to expand EV adoption across the state. So for the road trip, kind of our kind of thinking going into it was really to target the areas in the state of North Carolina that are the hardest to reach when it comes to electric vehicle access, specifically thinking about charging infrastructure. You know, that certainly kind of led us to the eastern part of the state where there's kind of, it's pretty well documented some of the charging gaps that exist in that area of the state. And it also gave us an opportunity to kind of align that with some other kind of value propositions as well, specifically, you know, the tourism element of North Carolina, really kind of stretching along North Carolina's coast. And we also wanted to go up into Virginia as an opportunity to kind of compare and contrast how infrastructure deployment is kind of throughout the state of Virginia. Dominion Energy NC is certainly a member of our you know, utility service members, but also thinking about you know, what things look like in Virginia as it relates to infrastructure deployment. They're doing things a little bit differently when it comes to, for example, the VW mitigation funding and allocation, especially for DC fast chargers. So we just kind of wanted to have that comparison as we kind of shared this with all the Plug-in NC followers through social media and various avenues. So this was a week-long trip. I drove almost 1,300 miles in all, which included 12 charging stops. And our costs were just about $50 for refueling. Much of that, and I'll get into here in just a bit, was of course free charging through various site hosts kind of across the trip. So thinking about kind of this campaign, it was a pretty different campaign for us, and we really wanted kind of to use this, certainly this time during COVID, to think about how to really expand our audience. So I think one of the things that we found is that we were really able to connect with folks that already knew about Plug-in NC, but we didn't have as much opportunity to really kind of widen the net when it comes to kind of engaging with new audiences. And so what we did was we really just tried to post a lot on various social media channels, things that included naming the 2019 Chevy Bolt that we've got here, giving folks the opportunity to kind of pick out of a few different pre-selected names. The favorite was Watson. So Watson and I kind of took off, and again, we really just tried to kind of partner with our member utilities as much as possible, coordinating, for example, with distribution cooperatives across the state whenever we would be arriving to their service territory, so that they would be able to kind of cross-post, for example, on social media channels, what was happening. And I think that gave us a really kind of nice opportunity to again engage with some individuals that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. We also advertised a few posts on social media, you know, to just kind of again share these benefits. We spent about $100 in that advertisement, and I'll share a little bit here in just a moment about kind of the impact of that. So a few of the takeaways, I think the biggest one for me is just the fact that the economic development and kind of opportunities around tourism in supporting charging infrastructure is very real. So the photo here is actually at a motel on the coast near Emerald Isle, and you can see that there were 2 Teslas already charging when I arrived, which was really nice to just kind of know that in addition to kind of this campaign, of course, these assets are being used every single day. And so that was just kind of a really nice affirmation and a good opportunity, of course, to kind of share that imagery. The rural electrification network that the North Carolina electric cooperatives have set up was really essential, and I think that was especially so, again, because of the route that we kind of chose to take through much of rural eastern North Carolina and up along the coast. We did, of course, go through every service territory, so there was a lot of support across the board. But the network that they've kind of put in place over the last few years was really essential to filling some of the gaps. It also gave us a kind of a new fun way to talk about some of the benefits of electric vehicles. So instead of really kind of sharing things through webinars or white papers, it kind of got us an opportunity to really get back out there, which was something that we were certainly a little bit more limited in during this COVID time. So it was great for us to be able to go through and just kind of share these updates very regularly, talk about different types of charging stations. What does it mean to have networked versus a non-networked station, for example? Where can those stations be located? How many of them are free, so on and so forth. And lastly, I'll say that I kind of had the opportunity to go on this trip, but there was quite a bit of support that went in through our communications team, again, kind of making sure that we didn't just go live with this event during the week of National Drive Electric Week, but that we really followed through with a lot of the build up and follow through afterwards in terms of different types of interviews and articles, and sharing a little bit of the data that we came across as well. Quickly, just kind of touching on some of the DC fast charging infrastructure that we saw across the state and through Virginia as well. You know, it is a really kind of diverse charging environment out there, specifically with Electrify America, Evgo, and ChargePoint. From my experience, they all offered good products. I didn't have any faulted sessions. There were no, you know, really high cost to charge rates or anything like that. You know, I did notice kind of some of the dynamics of you know, power, basically, you know, 50 kW kind of being a little bit of the top ceiling for the Chevy Bolt, and thinking about how that's really changing over time. You know, we're seeing many vehicles now, the GMC Hummer, for example, is you know, spec'd for, I think, up to 350 kW. So thinking about just how some of these numbers really play out, and seeing that happen in real time as I would pull up to charge and maybe see kind of the various charge time compared to a Tesla, for example, which is quite a bit faster. It was also really interesting to see some of the different ways that site hosts were charging. So, of course, some sessions were free, but many were actually charged by the kilowatt hour, which was an exciting update to kind of see that balance take place a little bit over the last year or so here. Quickly, just sharing a little bit of feedback that we received from this. I think it was, again, just kind of really fun and reaffirming in terms of kind of our outreach mission. But it was also really great to see the interaction that we saw from organizations that do similar outreach efforts in other states. So specifically in Virginia, one of the electric driving clubs there, and also a Clean Cities organization in New Jersey, reached out specifically to kind of share the takeaways that they had, and you know, just some of the experiences that they had in terms of following on this campaign. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see just some of the kind of quantitative impacts of kind of the social media approach here. We had 4,000% more reach. A lot of that was simply because of the amount of posting that we did. There was very regular interaction with folks. And we also, again, advertised a little bit. So it allowed for quite a bit more reach than we would have expected otherwise. This program's been running since 2011, but we actually had an even higher than 10% increase in social media followers on Instagram. So that was kind of a fun, again, new way to engage with a different community. And our content interaction was 6 times higher. So people were kind of sticking with the information and were really kind of viewing and experiencing some of the information and posts that we were putting out there. So kind of just to tie things up here, what did we learn from this that we can really do next? You know, this has been kind of a staple of Plug-in NC for quite some time, but I think the timing is really advantageous for us right now. We've built a network of EV driving groups and clubs across the state, and kind of you know, created inroads certainly with those groups, as well as local and statewide organizations. We've got a good opportunity to leverage some funding options and the strategies and campaigns for the utilities. And we also now have a chance to really engage local businesses and organizations about the value that charging can bring to them. And so we've developed essentially just kind of a white paper here that talks about the value that charging infrastructure can really bring to potential site hosts. And I think this timing is really, really advantageous because of the recent announcement by NCDEQ regarding the Level 2 charging infrastructure RFP from the VW mitigation settlement. So this is a great opportunity for us to basically, you know, hit the ground for really the next 2 months and do quite a bit of outreach with as many organizations, municipalities, public interest, again, affiliations as we can, to really just kind of share that message. To really kind of accelerate the adoption of EVs through kind of increased outreach for charging infrastructure and support. So we're finalizing these documents now, and we'll basically just be kind of doing a coordinated campaign in communicating with each of our service member utilities to basically expand that outreach and really kind of try to share the word about this funding potential for these Level 2 charging stations through the VW mitigation fund. So we're really excited about that, and it's going to be a busy couple of months because those RFPs are set to open up. The application period will open on a first-come, first-served basis in late January. So it's really a pretty small window for us to kind of spread that word to maybe some potential site hosts that wouldn't be too familiar with EVs at this point. So with that, I believe that's all I've got this morning. So I'm happy to field any questions or comments if there are any.
Thank you, Jacob. I do have a few questions for you. Can you talk for a minute about sort of what y'all saw in Virginia relative to what you saw here?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the biggest thing is that they're the main DC fast charging installer there is Evgo. They certainly install here as well. However, the framework for their mitigation funding, they were basically the sole source installer through Virginia. And so North Carolina has now announced the DC fast charging awardees from the VW mitigation funding, but I think Virginia was a little bit ahead in the timeline. So you're really starting to see more DC fast charging stations come online, which was really, pretty advantageous kind of going across. And my time in Virginia was a little bit more limited. I certainly kind of intended to spend more time in North Carolina than Virginia. So it is kind of a small sample size, but I also kind of had a good opportunity to see how colder weather and elevation changes kind of affected range, which has been documented, but it was kind of a good opportunity to share the messaging around, where sites need to be located. For example, before you go up a mountain or into kind of rural parts of the state, for example.
Okay, thank you for that. That's helpful. For the existing DCFC infrastructure here, where were those sites located? I mean, can you sort of generalize where they were as you drove across the eastern part of the state?
Absolutely, yeah. So they were primarily just on main travel corridors, so on I-40 and kind of major highways. So that's
like
kind of the
shopping
intention.
Center parking lot. I mean, that's sort of.
So that's correct. In convenience stores, so there were a few like gas stations, for example, that did have DC fast chargers, but primarily it was malls or other service centers like that. There was a Sheetz, for example, on I-40. So a few that are kind of hoping to engage folks. There was one in Eastern North Carolina that was a restaurant, had some kind of hospitality areas kind of around that too. So it really just depends. And some of that was kind of done by the real engagement from North Carolina's electric cooperatives to kind of like generate some interest from potential site hosts. Again, kind of thinking about where in the state we were.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right. Any additional questions for Jacob? Commissioner McKissick, are you raising your hand? Commissioner McKissick may be trying to take himself off mute. All right, looks like he's giving up. Does anyone else, any other commissioners have questions?
Can't get off mute.
Oh wait, you're off mute. You're off mute now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was having trouble getting off mute. I was just curious, Jacob, have you guys done any, giving any thought to where the preferred corridors would be and locations and frequency and number of chargers that could be put out as kind of an incentive to have people come in and put charging stations in? Because it looks like when you obviously selected your route, you had to think about where they would be, which is different than what it would be if you just were driving from one destination to another, like from Murphy to Manio, you know what I mean, in North Carolina. So to what extent has there been thought given to actually either you guys working on it or working on it collaboratively with other groups that might be able to strategically identify the number of stations, the locations of stations, and preferred routes that could incentivize parties coming in and putting in the stations?
Absolutely. Thanks, Commissioner. And yeah, basically, there are quite a few organizations and companies working on that. I think that, probably the most detailed example would be a station installer like ChargePoint, for example. So, they certainly have kind of their own interest to kind of set up the kind of the optimal number and kind of spacing for stations and location. Kind of from a public standpoint, NCDOT and many of the Clean Cities organizations here in North Carolina, there are three. They're on the Plug and NC Steering Committee, and they're working to basically have I-40 designated as an alternative fuels corridor. And so there's a lot of not only within the state of North Carolina, but actually some collaboration with Tennessee, for example, and others to basically make sure that there is some kind of nice coverage for the charging stations, you know, across main travel routes. The other thing I'll mention about that is NCDEQ, when they announced the DC fast charging RFP, which did really kind of drastically build out the number of stations, or will drastically build out the number of fast charging stations here in the state. They had a set of criteria based on kind of primary corridors that they've identified, as well as you know, spacing, you know, with kind of rural urban splits, with a number of different, you know, kind of guidance factors to make sure that was spaced out. But you know, really what I saw is that DC fast charging is certainly important, but it's really the combination of level 2 charging with DC fast charging. So you know, it was made much more convenient for me when I would have the opportunity to charge overnight, for example, at a hotel or motel, and then just kind of have maybe one DC fast charging session during the day. That allowed me to cover, you know, 300, 400, even maybe 500 miles. And so it was, you know, kind of a wide opportunity just by having that. And so that's, of course, a much lower cost option that I think, again, will allow Plug-in & See to be well positioned to share some of the funding opportunities that are coming up here.
And one quick follow-up. Did you ever encounter problems in terms of getting to a place where you intended to charge and there were already vehicles there and there wasn't a place for you to charge at that time, you had to wait or something of that nature? I mean, I'm just curious about demand today, where it is compared to the, you know, the number of chargers that are out there.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know, there were a few instances where there was other charging happening when I arrived. I think the best example is the photo I had with the two Teslas. Right. You know, they have pretty substantial batteries. And so, you know, for a level 2 charger, they were charging for quite some time, but, you know, it wasn't really a problem because, again, I had the convenience of staying at that location overnight and having a bit more time. From a kind of a corridor or a DC fast charging perspective, I didn't have any instances of having to wait. So there were at times other vehicles that were also charging, but many of these sites have been set up with enough ports where it wasn't much of an issue. So I would say that maybe the ports were at most 50% utilized at the times that I arrived, but usually was more like probably 0 to 20. So I think it just kind of depends as well in terms of where you are. So many of those kind of urban areas around Richmond, for example, did have much more simultaneous charging than some of the rural areas.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent report.
Excellent. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah.
All right. Any additional questions for Jacob? All right, hearing none, we thank you, Jacob, for your presentation today.
Thank you all, and I guess I'll go ahead and hand it over to Joanne.
Yes, thank you very much. Many thanks. First to the commission for your audience, for granting us the audience, and also for your participation. This was very interesting, and we appreciate the questions. A big thanks to Brian, Vicki, and Jacob for their great presentations this morning. Much appreciated. And before we adjourn, which we are getting ready to do, I want to thank all of the AE staff, and I particularly want to thank Bob Goodson for his excellent leadership and for all the things he's done over his relatively short but very impactful and productive tenure with the AE. So Bob, we appreciate you. I probably don't say it as often as I should, but I'm saying it today, so write it down.
I'm recording that.
I know, everybody is. So, so with that, unless there are any suggestions from Bob as to something I should say, or if there's anything else from the commission, we will request, we will conclude our presentation and request that we adjourn.
One thing, Joanne, I will add in at the end here, we are available. I know there are a lot of these areas that you all are looking specifically at. We're available if you need us to come in and do any of the particular sessions. I know electric vehicles are on everyone's forefront. There are others, so we stand available whenever you need us.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Chair Mitchell. That concludes our presentation today.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate y'all's time and the material you've shared with us this morning. It's been helpful, it's been informative, and it's been very interesting. So thank you. I hope you all enjoy the rest of this year and everyone's able to take some time off, spend time with friends and family. And thank you again, and we will be adjourned.